Please begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shandi, the school captain.
Usra Sethupathi, member of the student council.
The event crisis conversation for classes 8 to 10 will commence in a while from now. In this event, the participants from each house have to come up with a politically, economically, and socially viable solution for a fictitious crisis. So fasten your seatbelts.
All right, the rules for the event. A team of 3 participants from each house is selected to represent the house for this event. Each team was given a fictitious crisis topic a day before the event, and they had to come up with a politically, economically, and socially viable solution for it, as Sean said. Participants have to present it live in the form of a presentation. They could use PPT, PowerPoint, or they could use Google Slides. Now, the participants must take turns to speak, and each participant must speak for 2 minutes. Now, the time limit is 6 minutes, and a short warning bell will be rung at the end of 5 minutes. So the warning bell will sound like this. And a long bell will be rung at the end of 6 minutes, which means your time is up. So basically, the long bell would sound like this. Right. Now, if you do not stop before the long bell, you will be disqualified.
We would like to welcome the judges, Mrs. Rajeshwari.
Good afternoon, children. Good afternoon, children. All the best. Do well.
And Mrs. Asha Vadya.
Good afternoon, children.
Thank you, judges. All the very best to all the participants. I request the judges to pick the house that will go first through the shuffling of chips.
That's Venus.
Okay, so the first house for today will be the Venus house. And the participants from the Venus house are Sri Lakshmi Nagi Shetty from class 9A, Manya M from 8A, and Daksh Lahoti also from 8A.
The world is overpopulated to such an extent that there is no land available for the cultivation of fruits and vegetables on which human beings survive. Mount Everest is the only place left on earth for cultivation. Find a socially, economically, and politically viable solution for this crisis. Hello, everyone. I'm Sri Lakshmi from the Venus House, and today, me and my panelists are going to be talking about this crisis. The world has been overpopulated to such an extent that the only place in the world to grow plants is Mount Everest. And this task is very challenging and extremely difficult. There is extreme climate on this region. So without a doubt, overpopulation has caused a humongous threat to human life. It has caused many problems in the past and will cause more in the future. So what can we do to avert this crisis in a social perspective? Well, we can start by introducing and promoting the use of genetically modified organisms or GMOs. GMOs are living organisms whose genetic material has been artificially manipulated in a laboratory through genetic engineering. And by using these, we could actually grow crops on Everest. We could also spread awareness about GMOs and speak about their advantages. In order to help, we could donate money to these labs where GMOs are made. We could also help by volunteering to clean up Mount Everest and by encouraging practices such as rainwater harvesting and urban gardening. This will make us more self-sufficient. Daksh, what's your opinion on this topic?
Well, thank you, Sri Lakshmi. As you had rightly pointed out, GMOs are the solution to this crisis. We need to ramp up production and development of GMOs that can grow on Mount Everest. India has many laboratories and factories that churn out tens of thousands of already modified seeds each year. We need to encourage home aquaponics. Aquaponics is the growth of plants using water, which is a very cheap and efficient way of growing plants compared to the traditional method. We need to set up crop quotas to prevent hoarding and inflation of agricultural goods. Yes, crop quotas are needed. We need to give subsidies to farmers for use of genetically modified seeds, and the government has to support the farmers in this endeavor. We need to encourage widespread use of GM food. According to a UN study, eating a genetically modified product is as risky as eating its natural counterpart. We need to stop inflation of agricultural products and other products to curb bankruptcy and poverty. Well, Manya, what is your take on this?
Thank you, Daksh. Now, I would like to talk about the political solutions for this crisis. The government could establish institutions for biologists and promote employment of professionals for the making of GMO and also provide them with subsidies on equipment required. Underground farming, as the name suggests, means to practice agriculture underground. The government, along with other NGOs, could support and fund such innovative technology to be used. However, the factors of soil composition and underground water level should be considered during the construction of these farms. Peasants should be educated on and equipped with skills required to operate underground farms. Practicing vertical farming on buildings and highways in metro pillars would also be effective as it is one of the efficient methods. Governments can have schemes and policies such as tax concessions to those who practice vertical and rooftop gardens. Fines can be imposed on those who do not produce at least 1/3 of the fruits and vegetables consumed by an average adult per month. Also, it could make agriculture a subject for students, which would improve their knowledge about agriculture and increase the use of technology in near future. Planting vegetables and fruits by roadside would also make way for production of food. The governments could raise funds over a period of time. Collecting as a preventive measure would help support the finance required during the time of crisis. To prevent such a condition in near future, we must implement strict population and control hoarding. We could also reserve lands for agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, Venus House. That was wonderful. I request our judges to pick the next house.
Mercury.
The next house for today will be the Mercury House, and the team from Mercury includes Nishka Venkatraman from 10C, Arya Kulkarni from 10A, and Abhishek M from 10A.
Time starts now.
Living in the 21st century is both a boon and a bane. One such double-edged sword is Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is the axle of our lives, and we depend on it from things like education to business
transactions. A sudden Wi-Fi outage has brought the world to a halt. How do we bring the world back to its feet? Good afternoon. I am Nishka Venkatraman from class 10C, representing the Mercury House crisis. The first step for solving any crisis is to think of a temporary, even permanent solution. For India, forming a pact with other countries like the US and the UK would be beneficial as they have satellite internet. Satellite internet is a mode of communication which does not require Wi-Fi. It can even be used in places like snowy mountains and rural villages. Another important thing that we depend on Wi-Fi for is business transactions. Hence, trying to complete these transactions by using other means like Bluetooth will be very beneficial. An app called BridgeFi, which runs on Bluetooth, was used by the protesters in Hong Kong to ensure that the Chinese government cannot track their communications. A nationwide policy can be created to compulsorily use BridgeFi app for business transactions over a distance of 100 meters. Nowadays, even education is completely dependent on Wi-Fi. To ensure that the learning process continues, the government would have to create a new program for teachers to teach over cable television. This would ensure that the education is provided to people who usually do not have an access to education. These classes would also have to be made mandatory for the students to attend. The government would also have to create a new bill to bring back telegraph and letters, as they would be the main modes of communication due to the fallout of things like email and other Wi-Fi based messaging apps. Through these means, the world can slowly turn a new leaf and continue to thrive like the civilization it is.
Since 60% of the world's population uses Wi-Fi as a main source of internet, what would happen to the digital economy if there was a Wi-Fi shortage? I'm Abhishek M of Mercury House, and I will be providing some solutions from an economic point of view. Firstly, government should hire IT professionals and communication scientists to find the root cause of the Wi-Fi shortage and provide immediate solutions to make it proper. Also, government should provide them with all the necessary funds and state-of-the-art facilities to make it proper. RBI should provide for an offline payment method and also launch the NCMC card, that is a National Common Mobility Card. And other offline card payment method would be wherein the PIN entered on the POS terminal
Of all the planets that we know of in the universe, Earth is the only one with Wi-Fi and breathable oxygen. So count your blessings. But what if there was an outage? What if there was an outage of Wi-Fi? Since the word outage suggests that the crisis may not be a long-lasting one, we need to offer solutions that would benefit the society at large. Hello everyone, I'm Arya Kulkarni representing the Mercury House, and I'll be providing a socially viable solution for this crisis. Socially, one solution would be to embrace the traditions of olden days. If we went back to such eras, we would be able to be in contact with other humans, which would increase our human experience and relationships. A big chunk of great human progression and scientific breakthroughs came before the era of the internet. Hence, research and studies can be carried out swiftly without the usage of internet. Airing of online classes on cable TVs and satellite radios can also be used in places where education is deprived. Community gatherings with satellite radios can also be arranged for the dissemination of news. Traditional means of communication, such as letters and telegrams, can also be used for long distance communication. With such changes, we all would advance in human relationship and mature socially. Spending less time distracted and more times admiring the natural beauty of things, we'd have a great benefit on our hands. All in all, we'd live a slow life. S for sustainability, L for local, O for organic, and W for whole. Wi-Fi induces a fast pace in life, and in its absence, we all can live life at the right pace. Let us all live as slow as well as possible, not as fast as possible. Thank you.
So meetings can be conducted via conference calls, and telecom companies can reduce call and data recharge prices as all companies require Wi-Fi. And also government should encourage DTH television connections and make educational channels, as mentioned before, free of cost, which would help the people receiving education through Wi-Fi. Also, without the Wi-Fi access, tracking vehicles like commercial trucks, ships, and trains cannot be tracked, and they can only be tracked with the use of paper. So, using P-code military-grade GPS tracking systems, the government can track these systems without internet and provide this information to the customers. Or as these are tracked and provided to the customers, the market value of these products won't rise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mercury House. That was very informative. The final house for today will be the Neptune House, and the team from the Neptune House is made up of Ninada R. Adiga from 9A, Ajay Subramaniam Javli from 10B, and Yash Yogesh Kerkar from 10C.
The time starts now.
Snow is an individual ice crystal formed in low temperatures and found in the polar regions and the northern half of the northern hemisphere. From the past week, Kanyakumari has been covered with snow and has brought life to a standstill. Geographically speaking, Kanyakumari, the southernmost tip of mainland India, the place where the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, and the Indian Ocean meet, has just about 0.02 chance of receiving snowfall. But what if this little town, located in the heart of the famously called the Land's End, receives snowfall one fine day? Just imagine what would happen to the other parts of India. Good morning to one and all present here. I, Yash.
Hi, Ajay.
And I, Ninada,
would be speaking on the topic Kanyakumari having snowfall and why we consider it as a crisis. Now, what would be the causes for snowfall in a place like Kanyakumari? Global warming, obviously, due to the increased carbon levels. Southward movement of the sun causing the melting of glaciers and rising of sea level would be another major cause. Now, this is Kanyakumari on a June day, having a temperature of about 42 degrees. Snowfall in this region? Seriously? Then just imagine what would happen to Shimla having a temperature of 18 degrees Celsius on the same day.
All right, but why would snowfall in Kanyakumari be considered as a crisis? What would its effects really be?
Well, snowfall in Kanyakumari can be considered as a crisis due to its numerous long-term as well as short-term effects. The short-term effects would be blockage of roads, canals, and railways, which would halt communication and also, life would be odorous for the people due to the extremely hostile environment, and life would thus come to a standstill. The long-term effects would be a major drop in economy, obviously, as this region has high agricultural productivity, manufacturing sectors, etc. Also, trade would stop, considering that fact that Kanyakumari is a major Indian port. Rise in sea levels would cause floods, and high rainfall and weather conditions would also result in floods.
Oh, those effects would be obliterating. How can our governments help us though?
Our government obviously has to play a major role in this. They have to form disaster relief and control teams, fund them without any hesitation, and also train them adequately. They have to provide better facilities, encouragement, resources to all the researchers and scientists of our nation so that any natural calamity can be predicted beforehand. This will help the authorities to plan and effectively manage time to prevent a lot of damage to everyone. As we all know, industries play a huge role in contributing to global warming by releasing harmful gases such as CO2, SO2, and methane into the atmosphere. They have to keep a check on industrial activities and urge them to follow environment-friendly activities. They have to also charge a carbon dioxide tax based on the industry's global carbon emissions. They have to form youth committees since we, the youth, are the future leaders of tomorrow. The youth have to go around all neighborhoods. They have to raise awareness about global warming. They have to try to bring the mass in the awareness campaigns. They have to urge them to practice environment-friendly systems of living, save energy, time, water, etc.
Okay, but how much will we depend on our government? Is there anything we as citizens can do?
Yes, history has always shown us that more than the problem itself, the fear of it causes damage. If such a situation arises, citizens should avoid panicking and creating chaos, which leads to further trouble. They should ignore all kinds of rumors and apprehensions. Once the government releases protocols, follow them religiously. Once in a safe position, you can help NGOs or other associations trying to help the people in need. Show humanitarian values by lending extra supplies and helping others, along with protecting yourself. Don't practice illegal activities like price gouging, which causes severe harm to our fellow citizens. But isn't prevention better than cure? Wouldn't it be better if we could effectively avoid such a crisis rather than suffering in it? Within a few years, the climates of places may drastically change. To avoid this, we need to reduce our carbon footprints. We are all aware of those practices which prevent climate change, isn't it? Yes, you got them right. The same old reduce, reuse, recycle, use electric vehicles, reduce carbon emissions, and don't use plastic, and so on and so forth. These have become so monotonous that we don't take them seriously anymore. But have you ever wondered how important these practices must be if they are being repeated to you so many times? We would like to conclude by saying that today, the idea of snowfall in Kanyakumari might seem bizarre and staggering, but pondering over the arise of such situations is definitely food for thought. But for now, all we can do is to be prepared for the worst and strive for the best. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Neptune House. Thank you, participants, for that mind-boggling and mesmerizing performance. We would also like to thank the judges and the viewers who tuned in to watch the event live on YouTube. Next up is Mad Ads, and the event will begin at